Good evening, good afternoon, or good morning, whichever suits you best depending where you are at in this world. I am back again, and I'm going to go over a few things here tonight with you. To start it off, it's going to sound like this is a negative video. I promise the video is not negative. I do need to go over something, and that is requests. I want everybody to understand that requests are great if they are reasonable, and they're really kind of annoying and frustrating when they aren't. And what do I mean by reasonable? You're using my mod. You're like, okay, well, I really like this mod, but this bar hab, I don't really care for the lighting in it. Okay, that's understandable. I mean, maybe you don't like the lighting. Is there any way we could get one with more subtle lighting? Oh, you know what? I can understand that request, and that's a fairly reasonable request. Now, if you're asking for a whole new version of the bar hab, that becomes less reasonable, because the time it takes to slightly adjust the lighting in an existing hab and the time it takes to make a whole nother version of said hab is very, very different. And I don't think a lot of people appreciate the amount of time that's already been put in to making these things. So that's really it. If you want to make requests, please try to keep them as reasonable requests. And if you don't know if your request is reasonable, there's a good chance that it's probably not, because it means you don't have any modding experience. And these mods, they take a lot of time to make. And I need people to understand that when I'm making this mod, I'm not making it really for them. I'm making it for me. I am sharing it with everybody because, well, I've taken the time to make it for me. I see no problem with sharing it. And, I want everybody that wants to be able to use it to be able to use it. But I can't make a million versions for a million people, because everybody would change something. Well, for all of you people out there that want something changed, I highly recommend that you start looking into how to mod it yourself, rather than expecting individual modders to change it for you, because they aren't making the mod for you, especially if they aren't selling it. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's mods on creations that are being sold. Making requests to those creators is far more reasonable than making requests to people who make things for free. Because they are looking at this as somewhat of a supplemental career, or supplemental income. I'm not. I'm really not. I make the mod because I want to make it for myself, and I want to share it with all of you. But anyways, that is the end of all of that little bit of negativity. Let's go ahead and get to the actual mod itself, and go over some of these changes that are coming and some of the updates and additions. So first of all, you're all well aware of my battle stations, and the weapon platforms that fit in them. Well, I also have these new 1x1 weapon holds here, and they are both downward facing and upward facing. So there's one that's facing upward there. Then you'll also notice that I now have a new 1x2 hab here, and I also have a 2x1 version, and I also have two new 1x1 versions of habs. There's this one, which is just, it looks like a lot of my other habs and my staircases, but it's a 1x1 with doors on all sides. And then I also have an all glass 1x1, and it works like a cross hab, like the Hope Tech cross habs. where it will always spawn an open doorway, whatever it connects to. Another change that I have made is I've made it so that my staircases, unless they are connected to either a bay, a landing bay, and or a cockpit on the foreside, will always spawn a doorway instead of a door. So if they're connected to a cockpit or a bay, they will go ahead and spawn the door because they need to. But if they are connected to like another hab on the foreside, they will spawn an open doorway. And that is to avoid some of the issues with going in and out of the stairwells. Just because when the doors open into the stairwell, it can cause issues. So that's a change that I've made. The rest of my habs will all still make doors. Like I said, with the exception of the cross passages, which I just showed off. I think I've already told you I did go ahead and fix the collision on the bar hab. So that will be in the next update. And then I also have two more versions of habs that I am working on, or two new habs that I'm working on. And they will not be anything like vanilla habs. They will be more like my V habs. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. So my V habs, they have two entrances on one end and one entrance on the other, with the exception of the Cabo version, which has one entrance on both ends. My two new habs that I am working on that I'm not quite ready to show yet are M habs, which will have three entrances on one side, two entrances on the other. They will be 3 by 2 by 2, so they will be 2 stories tall. They will be 3 wide and 2 deep. Now I say that, technically the fore and the aft will be 3 wide and 2 deep, and the starboard and port will actually be 2 wide and 3 deep, because they are, like I said, I'm calling them M-habs. There will be stairwells in them to go from one floor to the other, and they will be 2 floors tall. And then I'm also working on A-habs, which is kind of a play on words. Moby Dick's captain was, the captain in Moby Dick was named Ahab. And then also, so we are Matilija Aerospace, so we're going to have both an M and an A-hab, just like our logo. So the A-habs are going to be like the M-habs. They're going to be 2 stories tall. They're going to be 2 long, and they're going to be 1 entrance on one side and 2 entrances on the other. They'll be more like my V habs, except that they will be 2 stories tall. So it'll actually be 2 entrances on each floor on one side and 1 entrance on the other side on each floor. And the same idea with the M habs, where it'll be 3 on each floor on one side and then 2 on each floor on the other side. Part of the reason why I'm making these habs is I'm kind of tired of the rectangular and square, very plain vanilla habs, and I wanted to make more habs that are a little bit off-shaped and have a little bit more tapering. I feel like you're going to be able to make better ship designs if more things taper a little bit. And like my V-habs, they have a 45-degree angle in their tapered sides. Well, my A-habs are going to have a 60-degree angle on their tapered sides. And my M-habs are going to have a 30-degree angle, roughly, on their tapered sides. So, just slightly different angles out there, which will make... 30 isn't right. I think it's going to be more like 60. So it'll be like 60 and 50, or 50 and 60 degrees, I think. I forget about it. Don't worry about the angles. It doesn't really matter. The idea is just that they're going to be slightly more subtle taper than what is currently in my V-habs. My V-habs have a pretty wide angle. And these are going to be like shallower angles that look a a little bit more streamlined if they're like on the sides of ships and tapering backward or whatnot. But that's what I've got in store. I hope the negativity doesn't get everybody down, but it was something that I felt like I needed to talk about because it's just been kind of eating at me. I read pretty much every post on every video and every, post and request that I get on Nexus mods. It can be somewhat overwhelming. And I get it. Like I said, I understand everybody has their own personal preferences. For people on console who are having trouble with snapping some of my habs and things together, I have found that there is a mod on Xbox that you can download. It is called the M-Class version 2 or V2 mod. It has a script in it that reduces collision tolerance in the ship builder, and it makes building on the Xbox a lot easier. Unfortunately, I'm not much of a scripter, so I'm probably never going to be able to replicate what they've done. But if you're having issues, I would highly recommend you add that mod to your load order, and it should help with every ship building mod and making it far easier to build the ships that you want. And you can get some overlap tolerance on it so that, maybe you wanted to overlap some modules easier instead of using the flip glitch trick. It just makes it easier using that mod. So that would be my recommendation for you, rather than hammering me and other creators with, hey, I'm having collision issues. Can you, like, go to a whole bunch of effort and work to fix it? Yeah. It's like, well, I'm not actually having those same issues on my PC that you're having on the console, and so it's hard to fix, and two, it's time consuming, and it's very time consuming. And like I said, at least for me, in my case, I'm sharing the mod with you for free. I have no intention of ever selling my mod. I just want everybody that wants to enjoy it to be able to. But I also need people to understand that this isn't my job. This is something I do for fun and as a hobby. So maybe try and scale back your requests and expectations a little bit, and understand that this is a hobby and something that I'm doing for fun. And I'm grateful that you enjoy it, and I appreciate it. But at the same time, I can't fix everybody's individual problems with it, because there's just a million different things when it comes to adding mods to your game that can cause problems. And I feel like everybody needs to be aware that no individual modder can fix like, if you download 50 mods and suddenly you start having problems, unless I can recreate those problems on my end, I can't fix them for you. Because if I'm not having them on my end, I know it's not really my mod causing the problem. It's something else. And I'm not going to go download every hundreds of thousands of different combinations of mods that there could be and put them in the literally millions of different load orders that they can be put in to try to find out exactly what's causing your problem. It's just, I don't have that kind of time. Nobody does. So that's all of my doom and gloom, but also hopefully look towards the future. And I hope I don't turn too many people off with this video, but it is what it is. And I felt like it was something I had to get out there. So we will see you in the next one. Have a wonderful night and a good rest of your week. And If you live here in the United States, have a great 4th of July. If I don't hear from you before then,